Welcome to the VEROSCOPE analysis of Jeffrey Lacasse, who was a boyfriend of Wendi Adelson. And we're going to hear his testimony today in the trial of Charlie Adelson, who subsequently was convicted of the murder of Dan Markel. So we're going to see, if you're new to the trial, this is Charlie Adelson. He was a dentist, and he used to carry a gun in his scrubs, he tells us, when he was on the witness stand. This is Jeffrey, who we're going to be seeing today, the ex-boyfriend of Wendi Adelson. Wendi is Charlie's sister. This is Wendi, if you're new to the trial. And her mother has also been convicted, Donna Adelson. She's been convicted of the murder of Dan Markel, who's in the middle here, and Charlie, the dentist. So Donna and Charlie have both been convicted of the murder of Dan Markel, who's in the middle, and both have been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. So we have been analysing Wendi and her trial transcripts. And what we're going to do is we're going to play about 15 minutes or so of Georgia, who you can just see on the left there. And she is examining Jeffrey Lacasse, the ex-boyfriend of Wendi Adelson, and we're going to see what he confirms as Wendi's deceptions to us that we've been watching in the previous videos. If you're new to VEROSCOPE, by the way, we analyze almost daily a trial transcript for deception, and we identify the different patterns that they use to lie and to gaslight. So if you want to learn how to spot people being deceptive, perhaps people who might be deceiving you, whether that's at work or in personal relationships or family, whatever it is, learning how to spot deception is a wonderful skill to acquire. So without further ado, let's listen to what Jeffrey Lacasse has to say about Wendi Adelson on the witness stand.
Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
You may take your seat.
Please introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name is Jeffrey Lacasse. Sorry. Jeffrey
How are you employed, sir?
I'm an associate professor at Florida State University.
How long have you been with FSU?
That's Charlie.
I came back in 2013. I was also there from 2000 to 2008.
Have you always lived in Tallahassee?
No, I'm from California originally. I went to Phoenix for 5 years from 2008 to 2013. Really loved Tallahassee, so when I got a tenure track job here, I was excited to return in fall of 2013.
Did you have a relationship at some point with Wendi Adelson?
I did.
What was that relationship?
We met in the fall of 2013. Apologize for my voice. Let me just get a little water.
You can have water.
We started dating in the fall of 2013, September 2013. We dated casually in the fall and more seriously in the spring and summer of 2014.
When did the relationship end?
Well, that's a little tricky, but basically July of 2014.
All right, we'll walk through that a little more in detail. During the time that you were dating Ms. Adelson,
Someone that is breathing on my
Is that me?
very close.
I don't know, maybe we need to move it. Can you hear if I touch the microphone?
Is this about the right distance here?
I'm not sure it's you, but I'm just backing up a hair. I know, it's hard to get right.
Yes, sir.
All right, so during the time that you were together, did you become aware of Wendi Adelson's recent divorce from Dan Markel?
I did. On our first several dates, that was the primary topic of conversation.
And were you aware that this was an unusually nasty divorce?
Yes.
During the time that you were dating her, did you become aware that even subsequent to the divorce there was ongoing litigation pending?
Yes.
Did you know Dan Markel?
I met Professor Markel. I did not know him. I probably spent 10, 15 minutes in his presence across the course of that relationship.
And
So whilst we're listening to the transcript, we're looking for deception, and we're looking for deception markers as well in every witness. And we're also looking for truthful patterns where we see them. One thing to bear in mind is there might be evidence that this guy that we're seeing on the witness stand now, Jeffrey Lacasse, he might have been being set up as a patsy to take the inverted commas heat for the potential hit and murder of Dan Markel. So if you know more about that in detail, if you've been following the case for a long time and you really understand the detail of that, please do put that in the comments as well, because that's obviously a very interesting avenue for us to explore. Okay, let's carry on.
were you specifically familiar with the litigation concerning Wendi Adelson relocating with her children to South Florida?
Yes, that was a topic of conversation for sure.
If you know, did Wendi want that relocation to take place?
Yes, on our second date, the topic of relocation and being stuck in Tallahassee came up, and the date was ended abruptly when she went to the bathroom, returned with tears in her eyes, and just left the date because she was so upset. That was about two and a half months after it was denied.
All right.
And it continued to be a topic, but that's...
But that issue
sounds
seemed
fun.
to be specifically what was upsetting her on that day.
Definitely was. She left the group date suddenly because it came up.
All right. And did she have family in South Florida?
Yes.
And what family was that?
Well, her brother, Charlie Adelson, Harvey Adelson, her father, and Donna Adelson, her mother, were the ones primarily that I heard about.
Were you also familiar with the litigation?
So as we hear more and more about Wendi, we can see that she goes into periods of self-pity and narcissistic type behavior.
Seeking to limit the exposure of Wendi Adelson's young sons to her mom, Donna Adelson?
Yes, in spring of 2014, yes.
And did you observe Wendi to be taking that filing seriously? Did she seem stressed or worried about it?
Every filing she took seriously, and she was stressed. I reported to TPD that every time a motion was filed, it affected our relationship because she's very upset.
During the time that you were in a relationship with Wendi, did you have an occasion to meet her family members in South Florida?
I did. Well, I met her parents mostly up here. So I met Donna and Harvey Adelson probably 8 to 12 times up here. I met the defendant down in South Florida one time.
All right, so you only met Charlie Adelson one time.
That's correct.
When was that?
That was the evening of March 11th, 2014.
And had you already met the parents several times at that point?
Yes, probably 6, 8 times at that point, maybe more.
So they came here quite frequently?
Yes.
What about Catherine Magbanua? Did you meet her?
She was present at the dinner that I attended on March 11th, where it was myself, the defendant, Wendi Adelson, and her went to dinner that evening, March 11th.
You're saying the defendant...
Okay, so this is the date where Wendi... it's the double date. I see. Okay, let's carry on.
See the person in the courtroom?
Yes.
That you had dinner with? Who's that?
It is Charles Adelson, known to me as Charlie.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing?
Yeah, he's sitting in the center of the defense table, wearing a light blue tie and a navy blue sports coat.
All right. And so Catherine Magbanua, how was she related to this family or affiliated with the family?
Yep, that's me.
I was introduced to her as Charlie's new girlfriend, essentially.
And was it your understanding that this was the first time that Wendi was meeting Catherine Magbanua as well?
That was my understanding. She was excited about Catherine Magbanua.
He struggles with names as well.
All right, so anything unusual happen at the dinner?
Well, at the dinner, Miss Magbanua mentioned that she had I guess it was her ex-common law husband, who had a criminal history that sounded very serious, and I did raise my eyebrows at that.
Did Charlie Adelson seem disturbed or upset by Catherine Magbanua mentioning that?
I don't recall him seeming disturbed, no.
All right, what about...
Oh, Catherine Magbanua, by the way, has also been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the murder or the involvement of the murder of Dan Markel. So, let's carry on.
After dinner, where'd you go next?
We went to Mr. Adelson's home, and we sat in his hot tub and had a few drinks and talked for a little while.
Who's the we that sat in the hot tub?
Yeah, myself, Wendi Adelson. Charles Adelson was in the hot tub for a while, and his then roommate, Dr. Jerome Obed.
All right, so Dr. Obed was living with Charlie Adelson at that time?
That was my understanding. He was his roommate, yeah.
All right, and where was Catherine Magbanua at that time?
She did not accompany us back to the house.
In the hot tub, did the defendant make some statements that were of interest in this case?
Yes.
What were those?
Judge, objection, motion to eliminate.
Okay, this brings us to a convenient time to thank the Trial Channel, who do all of the editing on many trials. So if you're interested in trial footage and you don't want to hear and see all of the sidebar delays and waits, do go and subscribe to the Trial Channel. And in the comments, say hello from VEROSCOPE if you get a chance. And whilst you're in the subscribing mood, hit the subscribe button for VEROSCOPE. That would be very kind if you could. Okay, let's carry on with the tape. So this has all been edited out for us.
A more specific question. Adelson in the hot tub mention anything about having connections to a criminal element?
Yes, he did. He mentioned having contacts on both sides of the tracks, meaning dentists, lawyers, professional class people, but he also had people he knew that were a criminal element, yes.
And did you get more specific about what?
Isn't that interesting? The shaking of the head from Charlie as it's revealed that he was boasting that he knows people from both sides of the tracks is the phrase, I think.
About these people that are the criminal element.
He mentioned specifically, I repeated it to DPD, about Cuban neighborhoods where you might find that criminal element.
Okay, so he had connections to those type of people.
That's what he said,
and
yes.
What was the context of this? Was he just seemed scared about it, worried about it, or something else?
Seemed to be bragging.
I want to ask you about a meeting with Wendi at a coffee shop that occurred on June 4th, 2014. You recall that?
I do.
What happened at the coffee shop?
We went to the Red Eye coffee shop to have coffee, just to meet midday, and Miss Adelson canceled a trip that we had planned for July 11th to 17th to go see my parents, which was a big deal in the relationship, and she abruptly canceled it.
Did she offer an explanation as to why she needed to cancel the trip?
Not one that made sense. She said that she feared that we would not get back in time, and she emphasized, had to be back on the 18th to pick the kids up out of school.
Isn't that interesting? She's very cold, isn't she?
Which would have been July 18th, 5 p.m., is my understanding.
It's that narcissistic type behavior, just doesn't give a shit about anyone else.
And I couldn't fathom why in the summer going through Atlanta you wouldn't be able to get back in time. It didn't make any sense to me.
So she was worried you could be delayed and she wouldn't be able to pick the kids up.
Right, and we had people who could babysit. It didn't make any sense at all, but that was what she said. That day was very important.
All right, and so that occurred on June 4th.
It did.
All right, did you see her later that evening?
I did. I went to the house to hang out with her and her children.
And is that her residence on Aqua Ridge?
Yes, ma'am.
And how was she that night? This is June 4th, right?
It is.
Okay.
She was a nervous wreck to the point where she was sick to her stomach. Asked me to get to her house as soon as possible. She was in that much distress. And she didn't have food poisoning or flu or anything obvious. She was just a nervous wreck. So I went to her house, immediately went to the store to get her Pepto-Bismol and a couple of things from the convenience store. I have the credit card receipt, is why I recall that so specifically.
And did you have any idea why she's acting? I assume this is unusual for her.
It was fairly unusual. The degree of severity was definitely unusual. But that whole week, June 4th to 9th, she was very nervous. So.
And she didn't tell you it was because killers were in Tallahassee to kill Dan Markel, did she?
No, I was stunned to later find out that there was hitmen in town at the time.
Okay. So let's go forward a little bit.
So if you know more about the case in detail, please fill in the gaps for us there. I imagine that that's an abandoned hit, but we're seeing the physical symptoms from Wendi. And then later, doesn't she decide to tell Jeff to go away for the murder week? Keep away, basically, in her text to him. She semi-breaks up with him and says, stay away, something like that. Do put in the comments if you know the details.
To this TV situation. Do you know anything about Wendy's TV being broken?
I do.
And when was the TV broken, if you know?
And we're fascinated with the TV. It's almost a talisman of the murder. And the deception around the television is enormous. Everywhere the television is mentioned, we have deception. So let's pay close attention to what's going on. And it's interesting that we're going to hear from Jeff Lacasse, his understanding of the TV issues.
Between June 11th and 18th, I think it's closer to the 11th, but 100% in that week.
And how do you know it was in that week?
Because we rented a movie, How to Train a Dragon 2, to give the kids a special movie night, and I have text messages where I'm discussing having seen the movie by the 18th with friends.
So you were able to refresh your memory?
Yeah, I was able to refresh my yeah.
Okay. All right, so do you get the movie, or?
Well, it's back in the day, it was Redbox, so I rented a DVD from a Redbox. It was 2014.
All right, and go over there with the movie, and what happens when you arrive?
I walk in the door, and Miss Adelson asked me to look at her television because there's something wrong with the television.
And what was wrong with the television?
Well, I turned it on, and I was immediately confused because it really shouldn't have been a question. As soon as you turn the TV on, it's been struck by an object and is damaged and basically unusable.
Can you explain what the damage looked like?
Yeah, it looked like somebody stood in front of it, took their fist, and hit it like that, was my first impression.
So kind of like a shatter mark with spiders?
Yeah, there's like an impact crater, and then there's, out from that, and it's all pixelated and distorted, which makes it very difficult, or really no one would watch this TV unless you had to. And I had second thoughts about that. I looked around the room. Maybe the kids broke it, so I looked all around the room, and it didn't seem plausible that the children broke it. They're very small. This object had to be kind of heavy. I'd thrown a ball around with them. I just couldn't see how the kids could have done it.
But you didn't see how it got busted.
I didn't see it. I didn't know for sure, and I didn't know we'd be discussing this in a murder trial, so I didn't investigate further or think about it very much,
Sure.
to be honest with you. I just thought, okay.
Were there other TVs in the house?
There was a TV in the back bedroom, a similar make and model, that we had watched television with the kids before on that TV before, so yes.
Is that where you watched the movie that night?
No, I went to go hook up the DVD player in the back room. Miss Adelson insisted that it would not work and actually stopped me from even trying. So thought that was very odd, but I didn't want to argue, and it's her house, her TV, her kids, so I said, okay.
So did you watch the movie on the broken TV?
Yeah, we gave the kids movie night where we watched a movie on a broken television that was distorted enough that you could follow what was happening.
So why is Wendi so insistent on not changing televisions in effect, fixing the problem by changing the TVs? Why is she so insistent on watching the film on a broken TV and her kids probably being upset about that?
Happening, but the kids are whining and crying the whole time. And I wasn't whining or crying exactly, but I was tempted to because it
Close.
was pretty frustrating, and I just didn't understand, what was going on. And of course, I had related that this TV is broken, it's unwatchable, it's not covered by warranty, you're gonna have to get a new TV, and I offered to go do that for her anytime she wanted. She's a busy single mom. I'll run by Best Buy, get you a new TV. It was not like a 80-inch TV or something that was really that luxurious. It was a TV like you'd see in a dorm room, so we could have replaced it right away.
All right, did you end up getting a new TV?
No, she turned me down several times on that offer, and again, it's her house. I tried to respect her boundaries, and I said, oh, okay. But it was inconvenient because after dinner, it's nice to be able to put the kids in front of that TV while you clean up the dishes and stuff. And it just sat there being an inconvenience for a while.
All right. I want to ask you about when is Ms. Adelson's birthday?
April 22nd.
Okay.
Earth Day.
I've got this out of order. Let's skip over that for now and go to the big fight in June. Ms. Adelson mentioned that there was a big fight toward the end of June. Do you recall that?
Yeah, that's the weekend of June 27th, 28th.
Where were you when that fight occurred?
We were in Gainesville. Ms. Adelson accompanied me for a work trip. We had that scheduled for a while, and she accompanied me on a work trip, and we ended up having a pretty big argument Saturday night in the hotel.
And did that have to do with you accusing her of seeing other men?
That was one of the issues. There'd been a lot of tension bubbling. That was the major issue. But just to give that some context, I suspected very strongly she was seeing other men. Of course, your office had confirmed recently to me that there was multiple online active dating accounts the whole time we were supposed to be exclusive.
Okay, right. Let's have a look at the analysis, and we'll carry on another day with the rest of the trial transcript. So let's catch up with what we've heard so far. So it's Jeffrey Lacasse on the witness stand, an associate professor at Florida State, and he dated Wendi Adelson. I think those dates are correct. The timeline convergence, the hitmen, they're stalking, aren't they? And Wendy's exhibiting extreme anxiety in that week. He says she's a nervous wreck to the point where she was sick to her stomach. Then the broken TV, and Wendi refuses all solutions for weeks. Does Wendi and others involved in the plan, Charlie and her mother, have they all decided that it's going to be part of the alibi architecture? So the repairman, the liquor store attendant, the garage, gas store attendant, her friends at the lunch, and the email to work are all part of the alibi architecture. And the TV being broken and the technician arriving, I think is part of that. So is Wendi refusing all attempts at fixing the TV problem, including the easiest solution, which is just hook up the other television? Is she resisting because she wants this alibi architecture to still be there? Lacasse's memory of Wendy's week-long extreme distress perfectly synchronizes with the documented presence of the hitmen in Tallahassee, a timeline he had no way of knowing when he gave his initial statement to police on July the 21st, 2014. He bought Pepto-Bismol and tells us he remembers that specifically because he has a receipt, used a credit card. The hitmen were there for 6 days and she was sick all of those days. Can you imagine the horror and trauma and anxiety and fear knowing that you've hired hitmen to kill your ex-husband? Knowing you're going ahead with it. No wonder she was sick to the stomach. Okay, so we need to analyze his statement and determine if we have reliability, deceptive markers. We note that he has the strong I pronoun. He's strong in first pronoun use throughout the testimony. He's keen to provide verifiable claims with documentary evidence. He's unusual in his temporal precision. I imagine he's quite precise as a person. He has self-corrections, which indicates real-time memory access. Self-corrections are important to differentiate between self-corrections and self-censorship. An easy hack is, are they moving towards precision and evidence and truth, or are they hiding and moving away from precision to vague? It's not perfect, but it's a little hack. The difference between self-corrections, which are real-time memory access and truthfulness, and self-censorship. Against self-interest, I wasn't whining or crying exactly, but I was tempted to. I didn't call the police. I didn't investigate further. Didn't think it was a murder trial, so didn't, really investigate the TV. And we have appropriate uncertainty. I think it's closer to the truth. Sorry, the 11th, but 100% in that week, is my understanding. Calibrated confidence. So Lacasse demonstrates zero deception indicators across all analysed statements. Don't forget, we've only just done the first 15 minutes of this single part of the testimony. His testimony shows consistent characteristics of truthful recall. Precise where memory is clear, appropriately uncertain where details are fuzzy, and willing to admit unflattering facts about his own behaviour. So where details are fuzzy, do we have the appropriate uncertain language in his testimony? And the pattern is assessed that he is being truthful. But don't forget, this is only on this 15-minute section. So the nervous wreck, 14 days before Dan Markel's murder, while hitmen were actively surveilling him in Tallahassee, Wendi Adelson exhibited behaviour that Lacasse describes as distinctly abnormal. We have the morning coffee shop cancellation. Lacasse says, we went to the Red Eye coffee shop to have coffee just to midday, and Miss Adelson cancelled a trip that we had planned for July the 11th to 17th to go see my parents, which was a big deal in the relationship. She just abruptly cancelled it. Wendy's stated reason, she feared that she would not get back in time. So this sort of excuse to manipulate, because otherwise you could always fear on every trip that you wouldn't get back in time and for something and cancel everything. It's not a legitimate excuse. And she had emphasized had to be back on the 18th to pick the kids up out of school. So a legitimate excuse where she just didn't want to be away for murder week. Lacasse's mid-sentence insertion of she emphasized indicates he accessed actual auditory memory. He heard her emphasize in his mind. So remember, with truth, we'll often see temperature and color and emotions, and in deception, it'll often be more clinical. We don't see real life. The correction was instinctive, not scripted. It was striking enough to encode in the memory her emphasis on July 18th. Self-corrections, rather than self-censorship during testimony, are difficult to fabricate. They suggest genuine memory retrieval rather than rehearsed narrative. Lacasse's assessment: I couldn't fathom why in the summer going through Atlanta you wouldn't be able to get back in time. It didn't make any sense to me. No, because it's an excuse. The physical manifestation of anxiety. She was a nervous wreck to the point where she was sick to her stomach. Lacasse spontaneously eliminates innocent causes. She didn't have food poisoning or flu or anything obvious. This ruling out process suggests he actively considered alternative explanations at the time. He conducted informal diagnostic thinking. His memory includes this analytical process. Fabricators rarely include their own diagnostic reasoning. They state conclusions. Truthful witnesses preserve their thought process in memory. I went to the store to get her Pepto-Bismol and a couple of things from the convenience store. I have the credit card receipt, is why I call that so specifically. A fabricating witness would say stomach medicine or something for her stomach more often than actually name the brand. Bear in mind that where we see truth and truthful markers versus deceptive markers, single flags by themselves mean nothing at all, in the same way that single deceptive markers mean little by themselves. That whole week, she was very nervous. So, Wendy's very nervous the entire week, and the hitmen are in Tallahassee. Wendy's sick to her stomach one day after the hitmen arrived. Yeah, isn't that interesting? He couldn't have known. He couldn't have known these facts when the police first interviewed him. The broken TV. Approximately 2 to 9 days after the hitmen left Tallahassee without executing the murder, Lacasse discovered Wendy's television had been violently damaged. What followed was a pattern of behavior that becomes difficult to explain through innocent means. I walk in the door and Miss Adelson asks me to look at her television because there's something wrong with the television. So Wendi initiates. Something wrong. It's vague, isn't it? It's not broken, it's not damaged, it's passive construction again. No agent identified. Performance of ignorance wants him to diagnose the obvious damage. I.e., someone smashed it, Wendi. Well, I turned it on and I was immediately confused because it really shouldn't have been a question. As soon as you turn the TV on, it's been struck by an object and is damaged and basically unusable. And yet they continue this ruse, don't they? Because the TV techs wouldn't have come around had they been honest. And didn't they come up with some old-fashioned terminology, like it has vertical lines down the screen, as if it needed tapping, like the old televisions, to get the picture back? And Jeffrey Lacasse says it really looks like someone had taken their fist and hit it at a height that the young children probably wouldn't have been able to achieve. Somebody stood in front of it, took their fist and hit it. He doesn't think the children broke it. And then we have this pattern of impossible refusals from Wendi. There's another TV in the back bedroom, similar make and model. The kids have got a new DVD to watch, The Dragon or whatever it was called. But she won't allow him to fix the new TV up, which it would have been simple. It would have been 2 or 3 minutes. A couple of cables in, a couple of cables out, plug it in. Maybe we would have to tune it. 5 minutes max. She insists that it would not work and stops me from even trying. Physical prevention, not just verbal discouragement. From even trying. This behavior becomes difficult to explain. Prior use has been established. It does work. The children are about to watch a movie that they're excited about. Jeff Lacasse has gone to the trouble of getting the movie for everybody. The boyfriend is offering a simple, immediate solution, but no. Wendi insists that everybody has to watch it on the broken television. She is just awful. And I think it's because she wants that television to remain broken and in situ, ready for her alibi, or part of her alibi. You've got children crying and whining throughout the movie. Probably they're thinking, come on, with the TV's just, it'll take 5 minutes. And once they, I can imagine. I didn't understand. Wendi's being weird. But not weird. I think there's a reason behind it. Did you end up getting a new TV? No, she turned me down several times on that offer. She's determined to keep the broken television in situ. Declines free replacement. Declines convenient solution. Maintains daily inconvenience deliberately. Sees the damage daily. The children are probably whining daily. But she wants that television in situ, ready for her mother, Donna, to call the technician on murder day. Extremely strange behavior, which Lacasse, thank God he wasn't the patsy, because I imagine his testimony, if Wendi is arrested, will be vital. Single refusal of the television, possibly pride, I can buy my own TV. 2 refusals, possibly stubbornness. Several refusals over weeks. It's a sustained behavioural pattern for a reason. She has to keep the television in situ and broken. So then we have the convergence patterns, sick to the stomach with the first failed attempt from the hitmen. And the surveillance, acute anxiety. She's very nervous the entire week. The entire week the hitmen are in Tallahassee. And then we have the broken TV pattern. 6 days of hitmen, 6 days of sickness. Then a TV that looks like someone punched it. Then weeks of refusing to fix it. These behaviours cluster around the same time period, documented in external evidence. Then we have the hot tub incident, don't we? So, no deception indicators. Truthful markers, consistent baseline, we would say highly reliable for the linguistic truthfulness of the statement. Documentary support, corroborated, timeline independence, unlikely to fabricate. The statement appears honest. Jeff Lacasse didn't know about the surveillance evidence. He didn't know about the cell tower data. He didn't know the hitmen were in Tallahassee. He just knew his girlfriend was sick for a week, violently anxious, so stressed she broke her TV, most likely, then kept it broken for weeks despite free offers to replace it. And when the surveillance evidence came out years later, it matched his memory perfectly. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of today's VEROSCOPE, and we may continue with Lacasse tomorrow, or perhaps move on to Brian Higgins in the Karen Reed trial. Okay, do subscribe if you get the chance, and do consider membership of the VEROSCOPE channel. We're about to publish chapter 4, so there's still time to catch up in the membership section of the first 3 chapters of the course on how to learn about forensic linguistic intelligence, and also some body language and elicitation or interviewing skills, not necessarily for a job interview, but just when you're talking with people, how to elicit information to confirm your suspicions that they're trying to gaslight you or be deceptive, etc. So that all of the skills become rounded, and you'll be very difficult for anyone to deceive. Okay, so consider the membership if that's of interest too, and look forward to chatting to you in the comments.